Welcome. This is the Enlightenment Show, and I'm your host, Laurie Schoenfeld. Thank you for joining us. We're so excited to have you here with us. Our lovely guest is Mariana Evans, who is the author of The Physicists' Daughter, which just released 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Welcome. So excited to have you here, Mariana.
So pleased to be here. And there's the book.
Yeah, so for those who are listening in, the cover is absolutely beautiful. Very vibrant yellows and greens. Really well done with the cover. And I love our main character right in the middle there. That was a really beautiful touch. How are things going in your corner of the world, Mariana?
Oh, well, it's always a good week or two when you got a new book out. So that's the main thing on my corner of the world. Otherwise, it's summertime, which is lovely, especially when you're a professor. So summer is a big change. So I'm soaking up June.
What do you love to do most during the summer?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. When I have more free time, like in the summer, I tend to like to play the piano. And I enjoy playing board games with my husband and with my extended family. And nowadays we can do that online. So we do some with all ages. So it's a lot of fun to do that. I like to garden and I like to read. I mean, writers should like to read. So I do that.
You just spoke 3 of my main love languages and one I'm trying to work on. I love piano and board games. Gardening, I'm not sure how to do it yet, but that's where we get to learn. So
That's right. Well, gardening, it's like, well, if you mess up, you just pull it out and, nature will send something to take its place. It's never a moonscape when you mess up.
I love that. That just made my heart happy because you think of like, dandelions or the things that people oftentimes call weeds, and they feel like flowers. They're so beautiful. For me, I still really enjoy whatever just comes up. And you see
the flowers and the seeds are puffy and fun and they're medicinal and they're edible. And we just decided they were weeds.
Your book I loved so much as it has a beautiful blend of history, suspense, and mystery in there, and a connected friendship and camaraderie between women, which I absolutely loved, the relationships that you built within this book. Can you share with our listeners and viewers what The Physicist's Daughter is all about?
Well, my main character, Justine Byrne, has a Rosie-the-Riveter kind of job in New Orleans during World War II. And I actually pitched the book as Rosie-the-Riveter meets Bletchley Park because she's very science and math oriented because her parents were both PhD physicists and they taught her a great deal of physics just as a child growing up in their house. And but they died unexpectedly in a car crash, and so she wasn't able to go to college. She wasn't able to pursue a career in physics, but she is able to do this factory job and do her part for the World War II effort. So that's Justine, and she's smart and strong and loving and maybe a little bit nerdy and socially awkward, as one might expect from a physicist's daughter. But she meets her new best friend in this book, Georgette Broussard, who people are really loving. She's nothing, her background is nothing like Justine's. She comes from out in the bayou. Her family is not educated, but they really sacrificed to get her as much schooling as they could, and she's really hungry for more. So she takes Justine under her wing and helps her make friends and acquire some social skills. And in return, Justine does what some people would consider a nightmare, but Georgette loves it that she's getting algebra lessons from Justine. And so they're this unlikely pair where nobody would expect as much out of either of them in 1944 as they're capable of. But they know it, and they're not afraid to get out there and try.
I personally loved Georgette and Justine's friendship. Why do you feel like eating over a warm meal and connecting and authentically having chats with other women is so healing to our soul.
That's, not just women, but anybody, I think you can bond over a meal. And I think that goes back to when we invented fire. I really do think that's just part of the human experience. But to find another woman who understands where you are in life, which is what Georgette and Justine give each other. And then a third character I haven't mentioned yet is Justine's godmother, Gloria, who is a female physicist in 1944 in her 50s. So you can imagine what Gloria has lived through as a woman. And she is so warm and supportive of the young women's development. I've just finished the manuscript of the sequel, and Gloria makes a glorious appearance and helps the girls as they continue to develop, and then backs into the background as a supportive older woman will do. So Gloria always has her moments.
You have a bachelor's of science in engineering physics, as well as a master's in fine arts of creative writing. How do you feel that science and art connectively can enhance creativity?
Oh, well, in some ways I don't separate the two because I'm just really interested in the world. And so there are different ways to describe the world. And they both benefit from intellectual curiosity. So, and Justine says as much in the book. She says, I appreciate you, Georgette, for your intellectual curiosity. It's not that I don't like people that don't have it. I just don't understand them. And so they both bring that mindset of trying to figure out the world. Also, I think that science is very innately creative. You're trying to solve a problem nobody's solved before. You have to be creative to come at that. And so I just think we lose a lot when fields that are seen as different don't talk to each other. So I'm in there in the middle talking to everybody.
What is something that you've learned about within yourself, Mariana, when you sit with someone else that has a different POV or perspective from you? Like, what are some things that you've gathered from being kind of in the middle and listening and having that conversation with other people?
Oh, that's interesting. Well, being a writer, you have to really actively put yourself in somebody else's shoes. I learned early on that writing fiction in particular, anything that features people, is an act of empathy. And so I think that having a life where I have hung with people of all different backgrounds and interests has just been enriching to me in every way, and it's enriched my work.
Mm-hmm. There were so many lines within your book that I loved so much, but there was one particular one that I read 3 times and smiled each time as I read it. It said, "I say what I want to say, and I cuss when I want to cuss," which just made me go and laugh. That should be on a T-shirt.
Especially for a woman in 1944. It's like, yes. Oh, come on, I'm here, welding and hammering and using bolts and screws and all the things that the guys are doing. I should be able to cuss too.
What is something that you are passionate about sharing and want to speak up about?
In my work, or
just within your own personal life, or within your work, or just something that kind of feels like a passion message for you?
Well, in my work, and I think it maybe extends to my life, this was a passion project because I got to work my science background into my art in a way that I think works for everybody. I had a lot of fun. There's some really serious mid-20th century physics that underlies the plot, and it has to be that way because it's based on a true story. So I can't make up the science, but I have to find a way to communicate it to a reader who is, I'm sure, very intelligent, but did not sit in physics class. And, everybody doesn't have to sit in physics class. And so it was very rewarding for me to find a way to share the beauty that I see in science and in nature in a way that I think is beautiful to the reader. And so one of the things I have to describe is the separation of heavy metals, which sounds really dry, but they make an arcing stream that's separated by how heavy the elements are. And so to me, it made sense to describe that as a rainbow, and so to take something that's very, very esoteric for some people and to describe it as something natural and beautiful and gentle, that was a good writing day when I thought of doing it that way.
The visual of seeing the rainbow, that definitely visually helped me to be able to, where I've never done the physicist element, I was able to see things with what you just shared there.
Yeah. And, visualizing anything is really valuable. But when I was, after I did the physics degree, I did an engineering degree. And I had a professor my thermo professor, would give you partial credit if you just drew a picture. You look at the problem, you draw a picture of everything that's, and arrows for where heat comes in and mass goes out. Draw a picture and you get partial credit. And if you work the problem correctly but didn't draw the picture, you did not get full credit. Mm-hmm. So that integration of the right and left brain, where you make it make sense in your world, I think is important in science. And it's important in writing fiction, because I can't show you a picture other than the cover, which I don't have control over. It has to leave. The cover may help me, depending on, but when I write it, I don't have the cover. I have to make you see Justine. I have to make you see her world. And if you don't see it and feel it and taste it, then you really aren't having the full experience. Mm-hmm. I teach writing fiction at the University of Oklahoma, and I tell my students that they should edit their projects multiple times for different reasons, for have one idea. And that one of the edits I recommend is read the project all the way through and keep track of how long it is between somebody experiencing something with any sense that is not vision. Because people are used to movies and they just describe what's happening. But if it's been 50 pages since anybody smelled something, then you probably are not using all your tools.
Mm-hmm. That's really good advice for the writers, of looking at your manuscripts and going back and seeing those sensory details where they are and where they're landing. Mm-hmm. Justine is a fantastic, strong, curious, just very empowering character. What are things that you personally loved about getting to know about her?
Oh, it was just, imagining what it would be to be somebody like her in 1944, and to, know that there were doors that were closed to you and would remain closed to you, but then to know that you have all this potential. So to be a person who is not bitter in that circumstance is a very interesting person to me. And so, and neither she nor Georgette nor even Gloria, who has been through a lot, are bitter. They're doing the best they can. They just go around the roadblocks that are put in front of them. And as I developed this book, I realized what an interesting period the early 40s were, because they had to let women work because the men were gone. And they had to, somebody had to build ships, and somebody, and so, and at the end of the war, a lot of them went back into the home and never worked again. Some of them didn't adjust very well. I read some stories about women who did get better after having been independent and being forced back into a war where you can't have a bank account in 1944. Mm-hmm. And so I really found the situation of women during these few years when they see what they can do And I think it's the roots of what happened in the 1960s and 1970s for women. I think these were the women and their daughters that made the changes that we've benefited from.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Are you ready for the inner child question?
Okay, yes.
All right. First question, Mariana. If you are recruited to be an agent, what would your secret name be? And
Yay. My secret agent name would be, oh, my grandchildren call me Mimi. I think I should be Agent Mimi. Or put a number on it. Agent Mimi 87.
Oh, Agent Mimi 87. I like it. That's a strong secret agent name, Mariana. So we have 2 ideas for shirts right now for you, and that's one of them with your secret name. Second question. What unsolved mystery would you like to explore?
Oh, I'd like to, I want to caveat this, but I would like to know the answer to it, but I would not ever tell anybody. I would like to sit down with Agatha Christie and know where she went and what she did during the days she was missing. It bothers me that all of the hubbub and the internet theories and I think it's prying into very personal, difficult, painful time in someone's life. But if she were my friend and we sat down, as you say, over cake and coffee and just, and I told her my painful stories and I said, what happened? I would love to know. But I would keep it to myself. I wouldn't tell you. Sorry.
It's all right. I totally respect that. Cheers to that, Mariana. All right. Leading into food,
Okay.
What is the oddest food combo that you've liked and tried, or you've just tried?
Okay. Well, my father used to make this when I was a kid, where you take a saltine and you put peanut butter on it, and then you put a marshmallow on top, and then you run it under the broiler until it's all black and gooey. And that sweet gooey and the creamy salty and the crunchy salty is really perfect. I recommend it. I like it better than s'mores. Mm-hmm. And you can make it inside the house, which is better than s'mores.
I'm pretty much gonna, I think, make that today because I have all those ingredients in my
almost,
yeah. The salty and the sweet. I totally
and wash it down with a Coca-Cola, and it really is perfect.
You're speaking my language. Yes. I have a date with myself.
Best kind.
And before we end today, what kind of advice can you give our listeners and viewers on living a more joyful and creative life?
Oh, wow. I think as over the years, I have learned to spend more time looking around. And this is maybe the scientist in me. I like to look at the stars. I like to know their names and, about them. I like to, when I garden, I like to know how they grow and what I can do to make them grow better. And so, but I don't have to always be working at it. I don't have to have the telescope out I can just go out and look and appreciate. And so, and the more you see, the more you have to write about or to paint or whatever your art or creativity outlet is. And this is also true. People, if you pay attention to them, you'll understand them better.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for being here with us today and sharing that piece with all of us.
I had a great time.
Where can we find you if we want to look into the Physicists Daughter and learn more about you?
Well, my website is very easy to find because it's marianaevans.com. And on there, you can get to me by email. And also all of the books are on there with links to, they're available wherever fine books are sold. So you can, if you're a local bookstore, I love independent bookstores. If you have one, If they don't have it on the shelves, it's in their warehouse. They can get it. So wherever you like to buy books, you can find it. And you can find me at my website, and Twitter and Facebook and Instagram links are all on the website.
It has been an absolute delight to have you here today. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
And for all of those who have listened and joined us, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate you checking us out every single week. And as you go about your week, remember to find the pieces that are working for you. Write your own story. What are the things that you would like to explore and have a part of your life? And go down the journey to see where it takes you. Have a beautiful rest of your week, and we'll catch you next Monday at 3:00 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Thank you, Mariana.
Thank you, Laura. It's very nice to meet you.
You too.
Bye-bye.